said, it's Dwight, he just came in.
Good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of What's So Funny, a show that talks about the funny with the people who make it happen. Our guest this week is comedian, entertainer extraordinaire, Mr. Dwight Slade. And of course, we have your host, the one, the only, Mr. Guy McPherson. Hello!
Hello, and thank you, Sam Tonning. How are you holding up?
Oh, everything's great. I'm in my living room. The blinds are drawn. I am having no contact with the outside world except for via this.
Well, that's good. We should all paint a picture of where we are. I'm sitting in a room, small room, little electric keyboard to my right, TV in front of me, blinds drawn to the left, watching the rain come down. And Dwight Slade, what about you?
Well, I feel responsible for where you guys are. Because, you have sex with one bat. And all hell goes loose. No, I'm in my study. That's what I call it. And I'm in Boise, Idaho, where my wife and I moved last year because I'm descending the show business ladder, evidently. And I'll be in Kansas next, I imagine.
Is that the next step away?
Right.
I was going to say down, but no, away.
I always thought Kansas was the stepping stone to Branson.
Oh.
So, who knows? You might have a second wind.
I have to learn to be a ventriloquist. But, so I am just happy to be here. This is my first gig in 28 days. I've had two things on my calendar the last 4 weeks, a haircut and this podcast.
Where'd you get a haircut?
I found someone that would do it, and she's cut my wife's hair, and so it was a little bit dicey, but went ahead and did it. I'm that kind of guy.
My son was saying last night he needs a haircut, and I said, well, I could look on YouTube to see how to cut hair, and he didn't like that idea.
Well, and to bring up the opposite gender, I think women are going to be having trouble in about 2 or 3 weeks for those that go downtown and have their own kind of haircut. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
So how are you spending your days, Dwight Slade?
Cleaning. The virus certainly upped the ante for cleaning. Remember pre-coronavirus, controlling dust may help your allergies. Now it's vacuum or you die. Bleach your kitchen or your family will be thrown in a respirator. Fine.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I've been isolating like everyone else.
Except for getting your hair cut.
That's true.
What is the solution here? What are we going to do? Just self-isolate for a couple more weeks and we'll be fine?
Well, I considering what they've given us to deal with this, their three-pronged approach. One, social distancing, which for me is not a problem. I've never liked people. This is going to be easy.
Exactly.
Stay 6 feet away from each other. Is that all? Finally, I have to avoid people in the name of saving the planet. Yeah, it's amazing how good you get at estimating 6 feet. I used to carry a tape measure around with me. Now I have clipped one of those pool noodles to 6 feet, and I just smack people around me who violate my social distance.
And that will continue forward no matter what happens.
Exactly. 2, they've given us wash your hands, the biggest threat to humanity, being treated like it was emphasized in elementary school. It's a great start. What's next? You have pneumonia? We recommend finger painting. And my favorite, the third one, don't touch your face. That's it. I mean, that's all America's health system can offer me. Don't touch your face. I pay $682 a month for health insurance, and that doesn't include treatments. I could lease a Mercedes-Benz convertible for that amount, and I'd feel amazing. But that's all the healthcare can offer. Don't touch your face.
That is shocking. And of course, I'm talking about spending $632 a month on healthcare.
Yeah. You can imagine how I feel about it. And that doesn't even include my wife. She has her own policy.
Oh, man. But, your borders are going to be open soon, according to your president.
That's right.
Things will be back to normal.
Yeah, and just like my president, this whole thing is called the Chinese flu. Wonderful. Do you say COVID-19 or do you say coronavirus?
I like Corona, but everyone's saying COVID. Sam, what about you?
Yeah, I think we're transitioning. We're transitioning towards COVID-19, I think, and all kind of official references to Corona.
I think it makes you look smarter if you go COVID-19.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I reserve coronavirus for my friends.
Excellent. It would seem to me that Idaho, you're in Idaho, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that it's well prepared for end of days.
Now, why would you say that?
Well, isn't that where people, are ready for the government to come and try to take their guns away? And
That's true. You just assume that everybody at the grocery store has a stockpile of M16 somewhere on their property.
that'll get them through it.
Yeah, in the grocery store where I get my groceries, a woman pulled a gun out. I read about it in the paper, but I go, that's my grocery store right there. And,
Good Lord.
yeah, she had it in a holster.
Wow.
That's legal, though.
Yeah.
It's legal, right? You
Yeah.
just can't pull it out of the holster.
Well, and I don't know all the rules, but I think that Idaho has the self what is it?
Oh, that self-defense kind of shoot on sight thing.
Yeah, they do. You can
Oh, jeez.
conceal weapons. That's what they have. Very, very generous concealed weapons laws.
So you lived for many, many years in Portland, Oregon.
Correct.
How many years?
23.
23. Last year, you up and moved to Boise, or is it Boise?
Well, thank you for asking, and how polite it is. Boise with an S, not a Z.
Yes, Eddie Brill told us that last week. He said, because we said we were talking to you, and he said, make sure you say Boise, not Boise.
Right. Well, Boise is an interesting town because it can look at Seattle and it looks at Portland, and it kind of does the things that have worked and avoids the things that haven't worked.
Oh, so you like it?
Yeah, I do. It's got a lot of young people because it's got a good university, and the food is pretty good, and so
a lot of potatoes.
Yeah, that's true. Who doesn't like those?
I love them.
I've only been to Idaho. I've been to Moscow. That was it.
The University of Idaho is there. I lived there actually for a while. My ex-wife went through veterinary school.
Oh.
But yeah, she went to veterinary school, and we got a divorce because I didn't want to be around someone who could legally castrate. That wasn't my idea. Good idea.
Smart move.
Mm-hmm.
Smart. So is there a comedy scene in Boise?
Yeah, it's a terrific club, and a lot of young talent coming up. So it's been very, very exciting getting to know the environment. I'm really lazy. I haven't gone out as much as I should and done open mics and stuff like that. Like I said, this is my first gig.
Well, so this is what we know what you're doing in these past 2 weeks, but before that, how were you spending your days? Were you traveling? Were you touring? You weren't doing as much comedy, it sounds like.
I've been traveling nonstop. I started doing these cruise ships, and they've kept my schedule pretty much full. I like it. I like having a lot of work.
That's where the COVID started, on a cruise ship.
Very true. But I've been doing it for several years, so I feel like I've built up an immunity.
Yeah, you probably have.
Who knows? Maybe I'm patient one.
So you will go back to those?
That's primarily where my income came from in the last 4 or 5 years. So I probably will, but maybe I'll learn my lesson and get some land gigs. And
yeah, I mean, it makes sense because you're right on the ocean there in Boise.
It's true.
What are you thinking? People, comics like to make fun of cruise gigs, but I always think that would be ideal. It would be great.
Yeah, and they ask you to do 5 shows, and that's 2 of them are clean and 3 of them are adult. And you can do all different shows. So I've been working doing 2.5 hours of material, and I've really enjoyed it. So it really challenges you to come up with that much material.
A lot of comics would be challenged to come up with clean material. I would imagine it's the opposite with you because you're generally clean.
Yeah, my best stuff is clean, and it's what I enjoy doing. And so I've enjoyed sort of exploring my raunchy side a little bit more.
Whereas Sam would be the opposite because he's filthy.
Disgusting. Yeah, it's gross. Like, oh man. But I envy the ability to not tell a dick joke as the first choice. But, welcome to the dark side, Dwight. It's doesn't pay.
That's all right. When this all goes through, we're going to go to Heckler's in Victoria, and we're going to tear it up.
You like Heckler's?
Love it.
Yeah, it's a great room that they tried last summer doing 2 Saturday shows, and then the summer ended, and I think they had to stop because not enough people were in town. But
right,
great club, excellent beer.
Yes, and not enough wing choices. They have 57 different types of wings.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 3 of them are good. But, who wants dill pickle wings?
I'll have this nugget hide and pickle. That'll be delicious.
Guy, when was the last time you were at Heckler's?
Oh, it was probably when I saw Brent Butt do a dirty show. Speaking of somebody who doesn't normally do that, it was a dirty show during when was that Victoria Festival?
That must have been 2013 or 2014.
Yeah, Mark Maron was there.
Yeah.
Mike Wilmot.
Jeez.
Brent Wilmot, and they were on the dirty show, and it was odd to see Brent on a dirty show.
I would have liked to have seen that.
Now, when was the last time you were here, Dwight? I mean, here or Victoria?
Good question. I think it was 2013 or 14. It's been a while.
And last time I saw, you know what it was? I don't know. Maybe you were here after that, but you were on this very program first time in 2008, so 12 years ago, and last time 2012, and you were playing the mix, I believe.
You're right. I had just met my wife on that week, like the week before.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a great conversation that we had. And we're going to probably, talk about some of the same stuff.
Right. So if this one sucks, you'll have another one to choose from.
Yeah. Go back. I remember talking with you near the end of that episode about Kelly Monteith and all those guys.
Oh,
and it's funny because now with Amazon Prime, and we talked about this with Eddie Brill, they have all the Evening at the Improvs and Comedy Network. What was that show?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, shows from the 80s and 90s. And so to see all these comedians that you and I were talking about in 2012 that we couldn't see anymore back then.
Yeah, and for me, I remember it was the first example of how social media can connect you. Because I had mentioned that one of my influences and one of the influences that Bill Hicks and I had when we first started doing comedy in junior high.
This is the best time to do comedy.
That's right. High, yeah. Was a guy named Billy Braver, and he was a one-liner comic who went up in a bib overalls, and he was from New York, and he carried a lunchbox. He was completely ahead of his time and was so brilliant. And you found a documentary on him and sent it to me. You remember that?
Yeah, he became a car salesman.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I went ahead and I emailed the producers, the guys who made that documentary, and Billy Braver contacted me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
And I tried to explain to him what an influence he was and how, the way he would do one-liner jokes really influenced Bill and he and I both. And it was just a very strange thing to have kind of one of your childhood heroes just pop up on Facebook.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, that even though he's not a name most people would know, when he's a childhood hero, it's more important talking to him than it would be, say, if you met Tom Cruise or whoever.
Now, why would I ever meet Tom Cruise?
I don't know, but you know what I mean. Somebody who's more of a contemporary or even younger than us, who is super famous.
Whoa.
It's like not as big a deal as meeting somebody who's a no-name who you looked up to as a kid.
Well, now you've just ruined it. I want to meet Tom Cruise.
Well, that's how I feel anyway.
So it's called Sob Story, right? Because he was a sob dealer, or yeah,
SAAB?
Yeah,
Sob Story. Oh, that's the name of the
the
documentary.
documentary.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Yes, in case anyone wants to look it up.
You didn't run across him when you were living in L.A.
No, I think we saw his name occasionally come up, on the list, but in general, I think by the time that I got down there and Bill and I both got down there, he'd moved on.
It's time, Dwight.
Oh, this is Dwight Slade. You're listening to What Is So Funny on CRFO Vancouver Co-op Radio, 100.6 FM.
Nope. You put on your glasses and try again.
This is Dwight Slade. You're listening to What's So Funny on CFRO, Vancouver Co-op Radio, 100.5 FM.
Nailed it the
There you
second
go.
time. All right. Good job, Dwight. So you were in LA for how many years?
I moved down in 81 and then moved back in 84.
Oh, it's funny when you said Billy Braver was this big influence on you and Bill Hicks because of his one-liners, and you don't think of Bill Hicks as a one-liner comedian. So how was he an influence?
I think he was an influence in that we initially kind of got into Woody Allen's. An album came out called Woody Allen, the Nightclub Years, and where he had his stand-up recorded, and we just admired well-written material. And I think that when you look at Bill, you see a guy who's really concerned about word placement and getting it right, getting the line right. And he's a great writer, and he was a great performer, which is so rare.
Mm-hmm. Hey, tell Sam and tell our listeners a joke that Bill wrote in grade 7.
It was my dad was arrested for having an intimate relationship with a corpse. We were shocked. It was not intimate. It was purely platonic. I know.
Grade 7.
Yeah.
That's a great joke.
Fantastic joke.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, from what I've read, that it was his idea to do comedy, and you were sort of a tag-along.
Yeah, he started writing jokes 6th and 7th grade, and I told him that I liked sketch comedy and being an actor, and he said, "Well, we should be a comedy team." And I was like, "Great! What's comedy? What's stand-up comedy?" So we both started writing jokes together, and then when we went up on stage, we would do that. We would alternate who told the one-liner jokes. We were one-liners.
And do you remember an early one of yours?
Good question. I think I said I was in Boy Scouts. My scoutmaster was fired because he was a gay pyromaniac, which means he lit a match on his zipper and he kept it there.
Well, and you weren't clean.
Not then. Not when he was 12.
Were you actually in Scouts?
I was, yes. My whole family was.
Oh, same here, and it was very boring. Like, I read the news about Scouts now, and it's not boring at all.
No, it's hard. It's hard to be excited when you're getting molested.
Yeah. I don't know. I just remember camping a lot and starting fires and just being like, "What the hell's the point of this?"
Yeah,
that was the point.
I guess.
For times like now. Sam.
Good point. I guess. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So when you started writing jokes in grade 6, grade 7, where would you perform them? Or when did you start performing?
We were living in Houston, and we saw there was an article in the paper about a comedy workshop that was both improv and stand-up. So we were like, let's do it. Let's go down. And so we went to downtown Houston and got a ride from one of our friends who had his license because we were 15. And a couple of times we had to wait outside the club because we were underage. And at that time, the drinking age was 18, so they were a little bit lenient. Anyway,
I can't imagine how thrilled the audience would have been to see two 15-year-olds doing stand-up comedy.
Exactly.
What do you? I mean, through the years, you must have seen teenagers get up on stage, and are you? Do you go up to them and say, "Hey, I was in your place once," or do you just look down your nose at them?
Well, now that you mention it, I just look down my nose. No, I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. You know, if they do stand up, because I know how hard it is, and it's always great to get someone who supports you. Yeah, I just remember having a couple sets down at the workshop in Houston that went really, really well. And I think it just, Bill and I looked at each other and said, this is it. This is what we're going to do for the rest of our lives.
Awesome. But you started in comedy, then you left comedy, then you came back to it.
Yeah,
right?
my dad bought a business in Klamath Falls, Oregon, and again, going into the hotbed of show business.
It's a theme throughout your career.
But as soon as I was done with high school, I just moved to L.A.
Right, but when you moved back to Portland, you went into radio for many years and got away from comedy, although a different kind of comedy, I guess, on air.
True. I did, when I was doing talk radio, I think I did 2 gigs the whole year, and then suddenly that gig ended and I had to start over again, basically.
So over since, 81, or even before that, when you were in Texas, all the various stages comedy has been through and the stages of evolution. How do you demarcate them, or is it just all one? It's all comedy.
Well, I think that there's a large part of time where comics got divided into showcase comics, which were comics in L.A. and New York and Houston, Detroit, and then there were other comics who were road comics. And I chose to be a road comic. I felt you got more stage time that way, and you developed a lot of strengths, stand-up wise, that you would not get in a showcase club. And it's debatable which one was better. I think that was a very important time right there where there was so much road work, you could just do a set every night somewhere. And there were showcase clubs where you could have a different type of experience.
Well, it got in your blood, and you still like traveling, right?
Yeah, I think it's about time I developed or figured out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I think that's in my 50s. Yeah, that's going to be dicey.
Yeah, you shouldn't say that because you still look like you're in your 30s.
Nice. I'll take that.
I have a question that difference between a showcase comic and a road comic. Could one go the other way as well? So could a road comic come back to L.A. and work the showcase rooms and just kill, or was it a struggle? And the converse, could the showcase comic go on the road and do well?
Very good question, and both of them need work. I've seen some really great comics go out on the road and they just eat it because you have to be a bit of a showman if you're going to work the road. And I've had a total of like maybe 2 good sets in LA. I'm not a very good showcase comic, and it took me a while to learn how to do that. And once I did, I started to have reasonably good sets.
What is the difference?
The difference is the perception of the audience. In the road comic, the audience has their arms folded and go, "What can you do for me?" And then in showcase clubs, the audience they're not from there. They're tourists mostly that come in, and then there's people who are with show business, industry people come, and they demand a different type of comic, namely a comic who doesn't care. The more you can act like you don't care and that you are a star, the better your sets will go.
Yeah, that's true in life.
You take that to Boise, and people are like, "What the hell are you doing?" Right?
Right. Yeah. You turn your back on the audience. They're like, "Well, this guy's rude."
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, that makes sense.
When you were in LA, who was coming up then when you were or you were palling around with?
We kind of hung around with, believe it or not, Arsenio Hall and Jay Leno. And Sam Kinison had just moved out there, and he, of course, was from Houston, so we kind of hung out with him.
But you didn't know him in Houston?
No. Bill did, but I did not. I had moved already.
And you didn't, I think we talked last week with Eddie Brill, who also hung out and got into a lot of drugs with Sam Kinison.
Aha.
And that's a story. I think Jimmy Schubert was a guest on our show this year, and same deal there, but you never got tempted.
No,
or did you?
Not me. And Bill and I kind of prided ourselves of being above that. We felt like we were better than drug users, but that led to for Bill, he went in another direction and sort of said, you know what, I'm tired of being this person. I want to be a different person. And he got into drugs and alcohol. But kind of as an explorer, that was what Bill was like. He was an explorer.
Just to see how the effects and how it is and all that.
Yeah, he did it kind of as a journey, not realizing these are addictive substances and you will become an addict.
Exactly. Have you ever had that Woody Allen-like experience where you're within earshot of somebody who's going on about Bill Hicks and you have to, or in Woody's case, Marshall McLuhan, you have to go, excuse me, you don't know what you're talking about. Have you ever had that?
Oh, a number of times I've had to patiently just listen to people talk about Bill with a great opinion. It's fine. Let him have it. My experiences with Bill and my memories of him and the thing I'm most affectionate of have nothing to do with comedy and have everything to do with just two guys that were really good friends.
And did you guys have interests outside of comedy when you were hanging around as kids? Or even as adults? Well,
that was one of the great things about the time that we met in middle school to high school is that we didn't have anything distracting us. We didn't, we were shitty in school, so we didn't study. We were into chicks or women. It's the 8th grade, yeah. But they weren't a distraction. We weren't like married. We didn't have mortgages. We didn't have, health problems. We were just young and energetic and knew what we loved. So it was a great time.
Yeah. I mean, I just picture me at that age going out and playing kick the can. That's what I was doing.
Right.
While you guys were writing jokes, preparing for your careers.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Bill's writing jokes about necrophilia.
But you mentioned you liked sketch comedy, but you never did that, eh?
I tried it out a couple times in Portland. They got a sketch comedy group going, and I guess my problem is that I had chosen to be on the road, and so I didn't have time to explore that aspect of it. I was too busy doing giggles in Missouri or whatever,
and hecklers. Victoria. Now you have leading man looks, Dwight.
Well, I'm all blush now, and you haven't seen me in 8 years, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, well, but even let's say throughout your whole career, but have you done much acting?
I did. I've been into acting. I've done a couple of short films, and I did a couple of features. One was called Inconceivable, about a woman who couldn't give birth, and I played her kind of Save the Whales business partner. And then I did Rid of Me, which I think you can get somewhere, stream it online, which was wound up at the Tribeca Film Festival. So it was, and played a small role in that.
I would imagine, though, when you were in L.A., you must have been going out to auditions all the time.
Yeah, I had an agent, and they were into development. If you were a comic, they wanted to see if they could develop you into a Seinfeld or a Brett Butler or Roseanne or something like that. That was mostly what I tried. I went in for one audition once, and I walk in, and they go, "We're looking for a John Candy type." What? Why am I here? Why did anyone make the phone call?
What type were you? Were you a Jim Carrey type?
Yeah, that would be accurate, yeah.
But you didn't have a type that you usually went out for?
No, I think they tried to be the dad, the dad who was always befuddled and had kids and was at the end of his rope.
Classic.
That's true to life, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'll take it. Yeah, sure.
Now, it's hard. You're a road comic in L.A., so you're away from town pretty frequently, right?
Yeah.
I hear that makes it challenging to get in to kind of, film, TV roles, because you're not there as much. You're not showcasing as much. You're not, on the pulse of, with air quotes, of industry. Because you're making money on the road. Is that a fair characterization of what it's like?
Yeah, I think so. And, the odd thing is that the only time that I got a lot of slight Hollywood attention was when I went to Aspen or went to Just for Laughs. In other words, any time I spent in LA was a waste, and it had to be when they came and saw me in another environment. And that's what changed me. It changed my career a little bit.
So they would see you at Aspen or Montreal and go, "Where's this guy been?" And you're like, "I've been down the street the whole time."
Yeah, it's exactly. It's very true. I've told comics about that. I've said that sometimes it pays to be the new person in town, and so moving down to LA, as soon as you can get this reputation as being available, and it takes you off their list. But if you're the new person in Montreal, well, they're all interested into it.
Right. You got to act like you don't want it as much. I don't know.
There you go.
Now, you got a deal down there, didn't you? In LA, though? You got a Warner Brothers deal?
I did, yeah. Back when they were giving those out.
and so that's like for a year. I don't know. What was yours?
Yeah, mine was a year, and was developing with a really amazing woman down there who had started the Gilmore Girls, and she was just, so enthused and so great to work with. And we came up with some very creative stuff, but it was when reality TV hit, and there was not much interest for sitcoms anymore.
But you pitched a few?
I did. I pitched all over the place, and I think she liked the one where, and it was kind of based on a true story, was when I was 11 years old, I saw a UFO, and it was pretty much, it was a UFO. It was sitting in the sky, and it was weird. I kind of felt like it was communicating with me, and this sounds a little weird, but it led to the idea of what would happen if this guy encountered an alien and then grew up and the alien came looking for him. And so we developed this series about a guy who invites his, quote, uncle to live with them, and he's an alien.
Hey, it's like My Favorite Martian.
Yeah, or Alf.
Yeah, for the younger kids. Yeah, you're listening to What's So Funny on CFRO, Vancouver Co-op Radio, 100.5 FM. I'm Guy McPherson. Sam Tonning is at his house.
I am.
And Dwight Slade is our guest from Boise, Idaho.
Mm-hmm. Sitting in a room full of toilet paper.
Oh, you're hoarding.
Oh, I'm a huge hoarder. Screw those people. Calm down. It's a quarantine, all right? All I do is eat and watch TV and have snacks. I've been shoveling in meals like I'm to have a tapeworm, okay? I want to. Oh, go ahead. If the line is, if Corona doesn't get me, a coronary will.
Try that now with COVID. I want to know more about you seeing a UFO, and you say that it really was.
Mm-hmm.
So you believe they visit us?
I don't know if they believe it visit us, but they visited me.
Oh, I see. They're only interested in Dwight Slade.
Just this one dude, okay? It was one UFO guy.
Was it a saucer?
It looked a lot like those early ones with the saucer with the little like edge on the top of it. So it was half saucer, half like disc.
And how old were you?
11.
So no drugs involved.
Right. And I was riding my bike to school.
Oh, it was in the day.
Yeah, it was in the early morning. Not early morning, but...
And nobody else saw it?
No, I was by myself.
Well, yeah, but it's a big thing in the sky.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if anyone saw it. It kind of freaked me out, and I kept it kind of to myself because I didn't want... this is back in, the mid-'70s where it's like, I don't even know if the UFO word was used that much. When I'm going to go to my teacher and go, hey, you know what? I saw a UFO today. Can I talk?
Mm-hmm.
I like that what makes it most believable is that it was in the morning on your way to school, and not like being fucked up at 1:00 in the morning alone in a field, So I gotta believe you, Dwight. You saw that UFO. Yeah. I'm on board. I'd read the script. Hell, if I was in charge of Netflix, I'd buy it.
Hey, yeah, Dwight, there's a whole, it's not just the 3 networks anymore. You
True.
could pitch this. Netflix.
True. You know what I think they need with Netflix is Netflix couples therapy, where they have trained therapists who help couples pick out something to watch. Because my wife and I never agree. Never.
Yeah, same with me. Yeah.
I mean, I like action movies. She likes just anything with Reese Witherspoon in it. That's it.
Well, I got to agree with her on that one. But yeah, what in our isolation, we're all watching Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever. What's in your queue?
Well, I think there should be severe consequences for people who recommend shit on Netflix that turn out to suck.
Oh man,
I do not have the time. I do not have 3 episodes to figure out that you don't know jack about which a good series is. Keep your shitty opinions to yourself. The Great British Bake Off is not that great. Quit talking about it.
Mediocre at best.
Thank God for Tiger King. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'm watching that one. I just watched episode 3 last night.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one. Do you think she did it?
I don't think she did it. I think she was picked up by a UFO. No.
Everything is UFO related.
Here's what I think is I love people who constantly recommend movies they watched in middle school and they think it's like the greatest movie. And they always suck. Always.
So I haven't watched Back to the Future, and every time I, tell other comedians that, they're just blown away, and they tell me to watch it. It's such a great movie. And then when I find out when the last time they watched it was, they were in middle school. And it's like,
right.
You're right. I don't want to watch this shitty movie.
Yeah, like
Wait a second, Sam.
Yeah.
Wait a second. I watched Back to the Future for the first time 2 or 3 years ago, and I enjoyed it.
Oh.
I enjoyed it.
Well, my kids love the movie Hook. Do you remember Hook?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that...
The Robin Williams?
Yeah, it was a movie with a grown-up Robin Williams who forgets he was Peter Pan. How do you forget that Peter Pan could fly and he forgets?
Well, Robin did do a lot of coke, right?
Well, that was the other thing, is they put Robin Williams in his 40-something bulk into a Peter Pan tights. Turn it the fuck off.
Guy's so hairy.
Yeah. But I thought of this. Robin Williams was in tights in Mrs. Doubtfire. Leave the poor man alone. Quit putting him in tights.
He was very hairy, front and back, and back then it was permitted. Nowadays, people run in horror at the sight of a hairy man.
We're all looking at ourselves going, look, how do I rank here?
Guy, it sounds like you're doing like the old porn comparison, right?
No.
Oh, okay, well, that's what I was doing.
I just remember Robin Williams in Moscow on the Hudson, a very good film, but he was in the bath, and it was just hair all over. But these days, men have to be completely waxed.
That's why I go to Mexico. I get all that done down there.
Not now, you don't. You have to go to your wife's friend. Yeah. So Netflix, I just watched the other day Gone with the Wind for the first time. Very good. I think that film is going to make some noise.
Up next, Citizen Kane.
No, I didn't enjoy Citizen Kane.
Oh.
Anyway.
Well, there's 2 types of people. There's people who like movies, which is almost everybody, and there's people who enjoy cinema. And cinema is for people who, they know something about why something works and it doesn't work in a movie, and why you should like things and why you shouldn't like them.
Like jazz.
It's an intellectual pursuit. Hey, you have intellectual pursuits, Dwight. I like, you could talk about anything on any topic. Like, what are your interests outside of comedy besides UFOs?
Well, good questions. You've kind of set me up here for failure, but you're an intellectual, Dwight. Yeah, and I like the puffy Cheetos too. They're delicious. Well, I'm trying to get back into spiritual reading and whatnot. Have you heard of the Rosicrucian cosmoconception?
No, I have not.
Basically, sort of an outline of the universe, and well done. Takes a little bit to get into it, but a very spiritual but fascinating. It's a couple of books, actually. It's volume 1 and volume 2. So I got into that.
Yeah, so you're reading. See, you are an intellectual. I think it's funny these days. People are going, "Oh, I'm so bored. There's nothing to do." It's like, you don't have a book lying around your house that you haven't read? Mm-hmm. That'll kill some time.
I have been getting into these Craig Johnson Longmire Western. He's a Western sheriff. And the audiobooks has a reader, and the reader is fantastic. So I'm hooked on those.
Oh, I can't concentrate to audiobooks.
Yeah, you have to do it on a treadmill in a gym, which was part of the old world.
Yeah. Well, you could have a treadmill in your house, I guess.
True.
People do, right? But yeah, no, my mind wanders, and then I go, what did he just say? I got to go back. So if we get back to normal, by the way, do you think we will?
I think either we are or we're going to become unglued and take to the streets.
Oh, good Lord. And that's not, you don't want to be in Boise when that happens.
But yeah, well, I'm one of the people who can deal with this kind of cultural isolation because I felt isolated before the outbreak.
Yeah.
I can handle this just fine. Someone asked me, what's the first thing you do after the quarantine? And I said, pretty much what I was doing during the quarantine, eating and judging people.
It works out perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but if we do go back to normal, do you think, every comic is going to have material on the isolation, on COVID, on Corona. Will there be any other topics for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, it's like everything that is going on. It's just we have to wait and see, and it's a hard thing for, especially being from the U.S., who have to, we demand information immediately, whether or not it helps us or not, and we just don't know what the world's going to look like when it finally gets a cure.
We don't, and will people congregate for stand-up comedy? Of course they will. People love that, and we were going through a real boom time in stand-up. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, completely.
Yeah, and so this isn't going to end it. People will go back, but it's going to be all COVID all the time, I would think.
It does, and maybe it's sort of doing a kind of cultural reboot is what it's doing, and that comics are going to have to kind of start over again. It'll be like, here's what I did today.
Right. Oh, we're starting to talk about the different evolution of the stages of comedy earlier, and when you were admiring Billy Braver and the one-liner comics, there was a period where they were kings, and then now it's more personal comedy. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yet the joke writers still have their fans.
Yes.
Do you have a preference? Obviously, because you grew up liking the joke writers, maybe that has stayed with you more?
I always admired joke writers because I'm not a joke writer. So I watch them and I'm just so enthralled and envious that they can just basically say the jokes and they get rewarded. And I'm a little bit of a physical comic, and so I always feel I have to sell it a little bit. And anyway, I should have never got into this business. I'll tell you that. I'm joking.
What?
What would you have done if it weren't comedy?
Good question. I probably would have been a teacher. I think that's sort of the same thing.
Like Dennis Wolfberg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Talking about a great joke writer.
Oh, the best.
Yeah.
And he had the eyes. So he had the physical and the joke writing, and it worked.
So good.
Like the rigid sigmoidography. I can't think of it the same way.
That's right. But yeah, a teacher gets to be a stand-up in a way. Mm-hmm. If they have any kind of personality, those are the best teachers. You got a captive audience of about 20 to 30 people, humans. And if you can impart some knowledge, do you try to impart knowledge when you're on stage too?
I used to, and then I felt like there were dead spots in my show, but I realized that those dead spots are there because people are listening.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing, right?
So I'll go back and I'll listen to old tapes, and I'm like, that was brilliant. Why did I take that out?
The audience was listening. Like, what kind of knowledge would you try to impart? Just your opinions, or?
Well, I would just try to explain them and sort of articulate in language that is clearly memorized and written, but interesting and different and something they may not have heard before.
Right. Yeah. But so you are you're a physical comedian, but you tell jokes. You're not the personal storyteller type that maybe was in vogue in the last few years, but I sense is now moving on.
Now, why do you say that?
Why do I feel that it's moving on?
Mm-hmm.
Just because I hear more and more from comedy fans who are getting bored of it.
I've been amazed at the patience of comedy audiences in the last 4 years. I mean, it's amazing that they'll patiently listen to and the content and they'll laugh, and arguably a great line, but it took an hour and a half to get there, and I admire that. I come from the generation of just it's got to be every 6 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, but enough of my sex life. Oh,
Classic.
Sam is also a joke guy.
I love jokes.
mm-hmm.
Just set up, punch, fit it in a story if you can, but just give me the jokes.
Yeah, I felt that way with improv as well. There's some improv performers who say, "Hey, don't go for the jokes because we're telling a story here." And I always think that's not that great a story. I'm not that into it, so just get on with the jokes. I'm there to laugh, or I don't really laugh, but I'm there to enjoy myself.
I judged a competition once in Portland. And this guy went up and he did this it was one story.
Oh, man.
And it went on and on. He was getting laughs, but it wasn't. And I was thinking to myself, I'm going to have to knock this guy down. But then he got to the final part and it was so good that I literally said, that's the best act I've seen this evening. And it was
really,
but it was, he'd worked on this and honed it down so that the last minute of it was outrageously funny. It was a massive setup, and it was just to get the payoff like he did was just a work of art.
Right, and so you have to judge each comic on their own, not in what style they're doing. And you could have easily had just dismissed him.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Yeah, this kind of judging, was it the kind where at the end of his performance you have to speak like on Last Comic Standing? Or could you do it in the back of the room and just submit your score?
Yeah, you just submit your score. I hate that situation where they give you feedback. It's like, well, you don't think I have enough self-criticism in my own life? I need you to pony up more.
You don't want to hear any of that. But it's terrible. I've judged some competitions, and I don't like it at all.
Yeah, I mean,
even just giving a score.
Yeah, what other performing art, has a contest? Picasso, it looks good. More blue.
You really want to be music, right?
Well, Sam mentioned Moscow, Idaho earlier.
Yeah.
And you were there probably, Sam, for the jazz competition?
I was there for the Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival. That's right.
Wow.
And was it a competition aspect?
There was a competition aspect, yeah. And so people from my school were competing. I remember in the sax competition, a guy chose to do giant steps and just was killer. But yeah, it was the big competition side there.
I'm sure that's what Lionel Hampton dreamt of. A showdown.
Yeah, exactly. I think he did with the paycheck.
Yeah, they're not good, but they're a good way to test yourself, I guess.
Yeah,
would you say?
I think anything that builds, a strength that you have is not a waste. It's good to go through an exercise, get something out of it, regardless of what it is. Put yourself in uncomfortable positions and see what happens.
The way I see the comedy competitions, because, they're pretty popular right now. All the big clubs have their annual competition kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And what I enjoy most about it is being able to see what people think is their best 5, 7, 10, 15. And, you're coming up, you're performing with these people so regularly. And then, I have in my mind what I would view my buddy's best 7 to be. And then I compare that to what he is choosing to do. I think that's always a very cool point of comparison.
You don't worry so much about where you finish?
No, because who cares? At the end of the day, you're going to, I assume if you treat it, with the right attitude, you will try your best, but someone else doing well. It doesn't matter.
That's a very healthy attitude.
Yeah, I'm not relying on a competition. That $2,000 isn't going to make or break me. If it does, I got bigger problems in the competition.
Dwight, you did Seattle, didn't you? Seattle competition?
Yeah, I did. I did way too many. I did Seattle. I did San Francisco. I did Boston.
And you hated them all.
Not that I hated them. It's just that I take them pretty seriously, and I would get really up in my head, and it was hard.
It was hard on a night-to-night basis, or was it hard after if you didn't win?
No, it was a night-to-night business. Having to do that 10 minutes where it really mattered. But that's one of the great things about stand-up is doing a contest is that you don't get an opportunity to do a set where it matters. Where even if it's in your head, it's rare that you get to really do something where it matters.
Hey, I've been seeing lots of clips of you on Dry Bar Comedy. What is Dry Bar Comedy?
It's a series of this company called VidAngel, which does something interesting. It takes movies and takes out the bad parts so that people can watch and not be offended by language or graphic violence or whatever. But their real success is they've built their own content. And they've done it by creating a place for clean comedy, and they've had a lot of success with it.
Now they're based out of Provo, right?
Yeah, in Utah, yes. And they do a great job doing a little mini special, and I think I got 2.5 million hits on one of my clips, which is just so odd.
Yeah, and do you see a difference when you go out to tour? Like, are those 2.5 million people coming to see you?
Yeah, one guy came in Arkansas. I think that was it.
But that's funny. When you said they take out the bad parts of movies, I was thinking artistically. Like, this part doesn't work. This is slow here. Let's take this out.
A lot of words. Okay. Let's turn this off.
You just mean the bad words. Now, are they a religious company, or are they just like clean comedy?
The two guys I believe that run it are Mormon, but they're not like fundamentalist Mormon. They're really great guys. They love comedy. They want you to be an artist. They'll work with you, and I have nothing but good things to say about my experience with them.
Yeah, and it's some people might go, oh, this sounds lame. But you're only incidentally a clean comic, right? That's not that you don't set out to be that. That's just who you are,
right? Yeah.
And you wouldn't even think that if I went to see you at the Comedy Mix or Heckler's. Comedy Mix, by the way, is now kaput. But at a club, I would laugh, I would enjoy it, and I wouldn't even think, boy, he was clean. You don't even think that.
Right. Yeah. Like Ivan Decker is like that. You don't even notice that he's just not a hilarious dude. Exactly.
Thanks for the local reference.
Well, I'm a big fan of the Vancouver scene. They've done some amazing things over the years.
Yeah. Why is that?
I think it's because Vancouver is such
it's
such a great city that it's everybody who is there, is kind of inspired to do something interesting and different.
Somebody asked me, Lars Kallio asked me if I thought it was because of the role models we had earlier on, like Brent Butt and Irwin Barker, and if that rubs off on the scene, on a scene, having people like that at the top.
I would have to agree with that because it certainly has gone through a lot of evolutions where, I remember going to Vancouver for the festival years ago and just being amazed. And then a year later, they've all moved to Toronto. But there's a new fresh crop coming up that you didn't expect.
Yes, and Ivan now is in Los Angeles.
Good for him. That came out snarky, didn't it? Well, good for him.
Well, as you were saying, sometimes it's not the best place to be.
I think he'll do fantastic because he checks all the boxes.
Mm-hmm. I heard he's got a new sitcom out where the UFO comes and visits him.
Oh, for God's sake! Too soon.
Dwight Slade, it's been a blast talking with you.
Likewise, Guy, and thank you, Sam, for having me on. Again, I think this is my first gig. It's going to be the only gig I have in two months, so thank you.
Well, come when things get back to normal, come back to Vancouver. We got a new, what is it, the House of Comedy, Sam?
Yeah, Rick Bronson Club out in New Westminster, the old Laugh Lines.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and we got the Yuck Yucks downtown, and just come and do your thing.
Love it.
What are you going to do the rest of the day now in Boise?
I'll probably, I'm pitching an idea that replace the Tokyo Olympics with events that have to do with the coronavirus.
Oh,
so
like
you have a half-mile run carrying a stolen futon. Who can finish a 1,000-piece puzzle the fastest? Who can get in and out of Costco with the last bottle of bleach in under 5 minutes? Who can assemble a dresser faster from IKEA? Who's quickest at clicking the skip intro button on Netflix?
That's a good one.
And finally, a gold medal to any athlete who gets 3 coronavirus test kits, which are strapped to a kangaroo.
Come on. Where's the toilet paper event?
Dang, I missed it.
Yeah, instead of the javelin.
A high jump. A high jump where you land into a pit of toilet
there
paper.
You go. There you go. Yeah, gold.
All right, Dwight. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Dwight.
We'll talk to you, not you, Dwight, but you, the listener, in about a week or so. Thanks again.
Bye.